Hey, what's up guys? Hudson here, coming at you with another video, and my girlfriend's actually going to be behind me for a little bit of the recording of this right now, but what I want to talk about today is Fire Mages in Shadowlands, and I'm actually super excited for them. A lot of people said that Fire Mages are getting massive nerfs, they're getting their whole rotation's changing, and that's kind of happening a little bit. But as most of you may know, I mained a Fire Mage in 8.3, and I've been playing it on beta, and I think I have a lot of insight to bring to you guys regarding this issue. So I guess let's dig into things. Alright, now getting into the changes coming into Shadowlands. I'm just going to do some bullet points for this, honestly. So if you know this stuff, you may want to skip past this section. I'll try to put some timestamps in the video. But first set of changes coming to Shadowlands, I guess, is that we're losing the BFA abilities, right? We're losing Hyperthread Wrist Wraps, we are losing Lucid Dreams and World Feign, whichever one you play, and we are losing Blaster Master, and then, of course, Corruption as well, Masterful. So losing a lot of what makes Fire Mage insane, actually, just from BFA ending, and that's not to mention the changes that Shadowlands brings. So coming into the changes that Shadowlands brings, right? So first change that I saw, and one of the biggest changes, honestly, was that Ignite spread no longer happens like by default. So Ignite actually has to be manually spread now, and it spreads to 8 targets every time you use your new baseline ability, Phoenix Flames. Phoenix Flames now has 3 charges, and its baseline is no longer a talent, competing with Flame On in that row. And what took Phoenix Flame's spot in that row is From the Ashes. It's a new talent that gives you mastery based on where your Phoenix Flame stacks are. And with that, I guess we have the Alexstrasza's Fury buff as well. Now Alexstrasza's Fury, aside from just making your Dragon's Breath count towards heating up and Hot Streak procs, right? Instead of just doing that, it also buffs your next Pyroblast to try to even out that row by buffing the ones that aren't just Flame On. There's also another change to your talent row, right? So with so they took out Mirror Image, right? And now they added Focus Magic, but most likely Fire Mages will not be taking Focus Magic. We'll see. But yeah, most of the time that's just going to be the Rune of Power row. And speaking of Rune of Power, they made it so it automatically drops. You no longer have to cast it or even waste a global on it. It just automatically drops with your combustion, and then you still get one, like, it's just like a normal cooldown aside from that you can use whenever, which is quite nice, actually. I think that was a pretty welcome change by most mages. And another thing that mages get back, aside from I didn't mention, but Mirror Image became baseline once they removed it from the talents, which is very nice. It gives a 20% DR as long as your mirrors are up, which can be quite strong in certain scenarios, and it's just nice for losing threat and stuff like that. Whenever, you're pumping out that massive damage. Now, another defensive that we got back is Alter Time. And with those 3 mages looking like insanely unkillable right now, and with all of our defensives, Alter Time is actually an incredibly powerful ability. It's the iteration of Altered Time where it doesn't affect your offensive cooldowns, it just affects your health. I don't even believe it affects your mana at all, but it just affects your health and your location, right? And I think that's the best iteration of it, honestly, for the class as a whole. And now Blazing Barrier, a small change. Blazing Barrier scales with Verse now. I don't believe it did before, but it gives you a percentage of your health plus a Verse modifier as well now. A small dot was added to Pyroblast, which should be mostly insignificant. I think that's as far as I know, I think that's a generally bad thing. I don't think we needed that small dot. I don't think it really helps us much, and I think it can even hurt us a little bit in certain scenarios, but I'm not going to go too much into that. And then Kindling was changed slightly. Kindling in the last talent row, now for every critical strike you hit with a Fire Blast or Pyroblast or Fireball, yeah, those are the 3. You actually reduce the cooldown on combustion by 1.5 seconds rather than just 1 second. Alright, so I guess I just want to go over how Fire Mage plays right now, how it feels to play in both single target and AoE. So, starting off with single target, I think it feels relatively well. I think it has some rhythm to it, and I think especially with Night Fae Covenant, It can feel a little bit fast-paced and feel like you have, you know, combustion up relatively often, especially with the Sun King's Blessing legendary. But with the amount of conduits we currently have, you're kind of pigeonholed into picking a, you know, if you're going to pick 3 potency conduits, well, you only have 5 options, right? So you're probably going to pick the 3 ones that, you know, just do single target damage and single target, and then AoE ones and AoE. And then, I don't know, there's 4 legendaries, so I guess you have some choices, but really for each of the specs, only 2 are ever good in the situation that you're trying to be in. And for single target, it's pretty straightforward what's going to be the best. And right now, Sun King's Blessing is the best for Fire Mage, but I'm kind of alright with that because I dig the playstyle. I really enjoy it. And what it does is after consuming 6 hot streaks, your next non-instant Pyroblast cast within 15 seconds grants you combustion for 6 seconds. And that's really not a lot of time, but it kind of, you know, makes it fun in between your combustions, and it adds a little bit more to the playstyle than spamming Fire Blast and having all your damage done during your main combustions. So I think this is a good addition. And it makes the single target rotation a little bit fun. And I'll show you that here in a second, but what I want to do is go through the talents and show you what's simming best and what I think the playstyles might be. So really the only 2 talents that actually matter for Fire Mage, because these other ones are pretty much set in stone. 15, 25, 30, set in stone, nearly. I mean, like, you can pick different ones, but they won't affect your DPS too much, especially shimmer stuff. Same with 40 and 45. Like, these don't affect your DPS hardly at all. But like, you just pick Conflagration for single target. Anyway, 35 and 50 are the 2 talents that you actually can change to have a large DPS impact. But currently, Flamebond and Alexstrasza's Fury are the 2 simming the best. And it's kind of interesting, Alexstrasza's Fury, right? Because it was not popular for a large part of BFA. And I think that the little bit of buff that they did to buff your next Pyroblast or Flame Strike is actually super helpful. And I think Alexstrasza's Fury might see a lot of play in Mythic Plus as Fire, if people end up playing it. But one thing that Alexstrasza's Fury does need is a buff to its range on Dragon's Breath if you take it, because it feels really bad having to be so close in melee to use that ability. And again, like, Pyroclasm and Meteor can both be played, but I just kind of like the synergy with Pyroclasm and Sun King's Blessing, and I never really played Pyroclasm, so I kind of, I don't know, I kind of just like playing it for right now. But these 2 and these 2 are simming pretty close. Now, in terms of how it feels, I'm just going to go through the rotation, and like, before I go through the rotation, I guess, generally you just combust, and really the only thing that feels awkward for me is the hardcast Pyroblasts, which don't feel that bad, and I can get used to them for sure. But the one thing that's taking a hard time to get used to is, with the way the 1 conduit works, which grants you, for every Fire Blast, right, the 1 conduit works kind of like Blaster Master, except it only works during combustion. And if you played Fire Mage in BFA, you know you want a Fire Blast before combustion. Oh, sorry. You want a Fire Blast before combustion. So it's kind of awkward having to wait until you combust and Scorch, right, to then Fire Blast, and it feels a little bit awkward. And along with that, generally what you want to do right now is you don't want to be, you want to make sure that you have all your Fire Blasts coming into your combustions. So you kind of have to time your Sun King's Blessings, right, so you have Fire Blast still. And you want to time your combustions so you have, like, you know, max Fire Blast stacks there, so you can so you can maximize this damage gain. And not just that, but Phoenix Flames in single target is completely and utterly useless unless if it's used during combustion. So it kind of simplifies the rotation a little bit in that regards, but then it gets a little bit more complicated for AoE. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna get into the rotation a little bit, and just to show you how it feels, this is not a guide for how to optimally play the rotation. I just want to show you how it plays right now. So I guess let's get into things. Gonna combust. There we are. I actually got 2 Pyroclasms during my combust. Oh my god, that's actually insane. I got 2 Pyroclasms and a Sun King's Blessing. But as you see, oh my gosh, man. Oh, get that Phoenix Flames off, baby. Yeah. I actually messed that up a little bit. I probably should have used a 1 more Phoenix Flame in my initial combustion rather than a Scorch to make sure I use all these. But that's about it, really. And as you saw, I actually got my Sun King's Blessing right after combustion, and that is super nice, and it flows really well. I would say I actually have another Sun King's Blessing right now. I would say that the what the hell am I saying? I would say that the one problem with this is that, with Sun King's Blessing specifically, is that it, like, in Mythic Plus, it actually feels kind of bad in the way, I'm playing this so horribly, canceling casts and stuff. I would say that it feels like you lose it in between packs. So, like, you'll get your 6 stacks, it'll convert to, like, the thing, and you'll see it on my UI right here. But you'll need to cast the hard cast Pyroblast, right? And you have literally, sorry, I'm done with my rotation. You have 15 seconds to do it, and it's tough to get that off because you really only have 11 seconds to do it if it's a 4-second cast and a 15-second buff, right? And it's hard to, transition between packs and then also do that in time, right? So it's a little bit tough to play around in Mythic Plus, so I think they should extend that. But otherwise, I think single target feels quite well right now. And I didn't use my Night Fae ability, but it feels even better with Night Fae, I would say. And it feels a little bit more fast-paced, and I think it's pretty good. I think Fire Mage, if the numbers... So right now, I'll get into AoE before I get into the numbers. But AoE, I'm confused as fuck for AoE. It seems like for AoE right now, I don't like this gameplay, but I guess this is what Fire is going to be. It's mostly going to be Flame Patch. As far as I can tell right now, it's mostly going to be Flame Patch. And, hard cast Flame Strike spam with your occasional combustion, and then use, 3 fucking Phoenix Flames in a row. And maybe you might use a different legendary at that point than Sun King's Blessing, but we will see. We will see. The AoE stuff still has to be worked out, and I'm not 100% certain on how that will be, but it looks like it might end up being like pre-8.3 AoE, but instead with Phoenix Flames added. Now, in terms of tuning, Fire Mage, let's get real. Fire Mage is tuned so fucking low. Fire Mage is, 10, 15, maybe even 15% below the other specs in single target, and at least that much in AoE. It is quite bad right now. It needs to be tuned up. Sorry for clapping into the mic, but it needs to be tuned up a shit ton. Blizzard, please listen to this. Blizzard needs to tune Fire Mages up hella high. And not hella high, right? They just need to be in line with other specs. You know what I mean? They don't have to be the best spec even, just as long as it's not fucking this low. It's bad, man. It is bad right now. And that's why a lot of players aren't playing Fire on beta. That, along with the bugs that happened at the beginning, not many people are testing Fire on beta because of the massively low numbers and the bugs that initially happened. So aside from the numbers, I guess the other problems with the spec right now are, I don't like the AoE, but that's just a personal thing. I guess if the numbers were there, it's always fun to play if the numbers are there, truly. And I think that this spec has a lot going for it aside from just the damage, right? So if the damage numbers were, equal with the other specs, I think that this would be quite viable in a lot of situations. Its execute damage is very strong if the numbers are equal with other specs, right? On a, a more micro level, I guess things that could change, or that they could fix maybe the travel time of Phoenix Flames could be a little bit faster. It feels kind of slow. And everything feels kind of slow right now with low haste, but that's something that doesn't adjust with haste, right? So I feel like if Phoenix Flames went a little bit faster in the air, that might feel better. The Dragon's Breath with Alexstrasza's Fury feels bad. I mentioned that already. That's the last I'm going to say about it, but I think that they need to fix the length on that, and I kind of expect them to do something with that, hopefully. And I guess it just feels awkward at the beginning of your rotation now, but I think that's something I had listed down, but I think that that's something that will fix itself. I think that most people will learn to play around fire blasting after you start combust. But I think if they change the conduit to just give you the damage amp whenever, just right, so the reason, like I said before, the reason that you have to hold your fire blast until combust starts, right, is because of the conduit that gives you the damage amp whenever you fire blast during a combust. And I think that would kind of be solved if they allowed that conduit to just give you damage amp every time fire blast was cast. Maybe it'd be overpowered at that point. Maybe they shouldn't do that, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, what are the fun parts of Fire? So, the best parts of Fire, in my opinion, for Shadowlands is the new playstyle. I think that this playstyle will throw current people that play Fire for a loop. You're going to have to learn a lot. There is going to be a skill gap between people who, know old Fire and know this new Fire rotation. You're going to have to be able to hold combust, or not hold combust, you never want to hold combust, but you're going to have to be able to hold Fire Blasts, Phoenix Flames. You're going to have to know when to use Phoenix Flames and Fire Blast. The AoE is going to be unique. You're going to have to figure out how to do the AoE rotation properly. And you're going to have to be able to use Sun King's Blessing, properly. And that can be tough. And along with that, you're going to have to manage your other cooldowns as well. There should be a skill gap for Fire, as there always is. Along with that, just the general benefits of Fire. I think that having in a dungeon group, if the numbers were the same as like Frost and Arcane, I think it's really nice having Fire specifically, whereas like Frost you have the slow, which is awesome, like the almost permanent slow. Well, with Fire it's really nice just having another AoE stop on enemies, right? You have Dragon's Breath, whereas I find myself really missing that as Frost and Arcane sometimes. And along with that, just the personal utility of having Cauterize is kind of insane. It's kind of nuts as Fire. And really, as a whole, I do enjoy this new Fire. I might change my mind once I get into more dungeons and start playing more dungeons as Fire if I end up doing that. And depending on how the tuning is, I might change my mind as well. We will see. But currently, I'm a fan of it as long as I get the tuning right. I'd have to say so myself. Let me know what you think in the comments, please. I'm sure a lot of people are big haters of Fire. I'm sure a lot of people are happy to see the spec in the F tier right now. But let me know what you think. I'd really appreciate it. Let me know any other comments you have about the video or anything I've had to say in general. And thank you for watching, guys. I will see you later.